of the world's largest FinTech Fest, Global FinTech Fest, organized by Internet and Mobile Association of India, Payments Council of India, and FinTech Convergence Council, and National Payments Corporation of India. This fest is presented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and Reserve Bank of India, and supported by Niti Aayog, Startup India, and Invest India. So before we move ahead, I would sincerely want to thank our sponsors. So our platinum sponsors are Visa, AWS, and PhonePe. Our diamond partner, Cred. Our country partner, Australian government. Our track partner, HSBC India and Re-Infinitive India. And our session partner, the UK Government Department for International Trade. Thank you so much for constant support of our sponsors. The second edition of the summit with the theme FinTech, Empowering a Global Digital Economy, will provide an in-depth understanding of the latest business, policy, investment and technology developments within the FinTech landscape globally. We welcome you all for the panel discussion on a very interesting topic, and that is innovation in payments, driving digital adoption. So without further ado, let me introduce to our session moderator, Ms. Aarti Singh, Senior Writer, FinTech, The Morning Context. And now it's time to invite our esteemed set of panel members, Mr. Arun Tikku, SVP, Business and Strategy, Cash-Free Payments, Ms. Neha Gupta, Title Head, Issuance, Stored Value Account, Gift Cards, Amazon Pay, Mr. Sumit Agarwal, Head of FinTech and Trip Money, Make My Trip, and Ms. Natasha Jetnandani, CTO, ClidoFit. Thank you so much to each one of you, and it's absolutely our pleasure. Over to you, Ms. Singh.
Thanks so much, and glad to be part of the panel, and with esteemed panelists, I would say, and a very interesting topic like on innovation. Everybody talks about innovation in the industry, and I think more than the word, I think people would love to know what innovation the companies are doing today. So without wasting much time, first I would like to say to all our audience, feel free to ask any questions, and we would love to, make this session as engaging as possible. So feel free to share your questions. We will take maybe, in the middle of the conversation or in the end. Without wasting much time, I'd love to have, set the panel with the first question. Maybe, there is a very interesting set of companies like Cash-Free, Amazon, Make My Trip, and ClidoFin, who are doing pretty much very interesting stuff on payment side. Somebody is on the merchant payment, somebody we know on the consumer side. Make My Trip is a very interesting company for me to maybe, track later on, which I have not tracked yet. And ClidoFin for sure, because, they are tracking the underbanked segment. So without wasting, more time, may I ask, I think merchant is something that has become really, hot topic. Or I recently did a story that, most of the companies, payment gateway companies and all, everybody is looking at some acquisitions on the merchant side of the business, right? At one point, people were thinking, where this business is going to go, the merchant acquisition space and other space. But today it has, with BillDesk and PayU merger, that is one biggest development in the space. So maybe I'd like to, ask this question to Cash-Free, to Make My Trip. If you can talk about through the innovation that the companies are doing, on the merchant innovation side. So please feel free to share. And, Natasha, I'll come back to you very soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me start. Innovation for Cash-Free. So we are a fintech company, so we keep on innovating. And this is the only company, I think what we have done is we are not only a PG company. So from the day when we started, so we understood that it can't be only one product-led company. You have to understand the multiple problems of the customer. So what we started was, after interacting with the customer, we found that there are challenges with the payouts. So we became one of the company which was offering payouts. We have auto collect as a product which was based on the requirement of the customers, keeping in mind that you wanted to offer a full stack collections and payment product. So evaluation and the way the demand of the requirement was there in the customer's front, we started building our products. Now look at the new innovations what are happening, especially on the cross border. So we are part of second cohort of RBI, where on the LRS front you can actually invest into Nasdaq. So foreign exchange you can do. So that is something which is going to help a lot of our companies like Grow and so many other companies, where people are investing, and they can use us as a platform to start routing their money and getting that the publicly listed companies in the Nasdaq, they can apply. Similarly, we have product suites for companies like NBFCs, looking at their requirements, because NBFCs were something wherein cost of getting the money back from the customer was always a challenge, because again it comes at a cost. So we built a product called Auto Collect that particular time, which is helping them at a fraction of a cost. So we are creating virtual accounts for the customers wherein the money is coming and the reconciliation is done. So you compare it with any bank or any other institutions. So what is the best part of this particular product is to way the collections are happening and the way the reconciliation is done at a fraction of cost what these customers are paying. And I think any fintech company can't survive without the innovation. So it has to be a gradual process. It has to be a constant process by which you can actually work on. So that's my take on the innovation what we are doing. Over to you, Aarti.
Yeah, Sumit, would you like to add to that?
Sure.
And please feel free to add to cross-border payments. I think I think if you can share your thoughts on that as well.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, Aarti. And my pleasure to be here with all the panelists. See, before I get into maybe the kind of innovation we look into at MakeMyTrip as a group, right? Let me tell you how we think about it. So we keep payments at the very core of our strategy, and because of the pace at which it is evolving, if we do not innovate, then maybe a couple of years down the line, if a customer has to come to MakeMyTrip, maybe they will not even know as to how to transact. So, so the core of our philosophy is to basically converge customer experience in the online and the offline world. And if I have to elaborate that a little further, the step that a customer takes while making a payment to maybe a travel agent offline has to be exactly the same that they do it on MakeMyTrip or even on GoIbigo, right? The two leading brands that we have. If somebody has to today go to an agent or to a Kirana store and maybe use a credit card to tap and pay, then why not have the same experience? Can a customer transact and then to give them an ability to tap their card on the mobile device, right, and then to complete the payment, right? Something that we are working behind. It comes with a lot of challenges, but that is how we think about it. What are the other things? See, we do like to develop products which will improve customer trust. So again, if I have to take an example, in an offline world, you buy something and then you go and return the product and you get the money instantly. That does not happen online, right? We still have to wait for a few days or weeks for the money to get back into the customer account, and hence we have implemented this instantaneous refund solution as part of the payment, right? So the customer gets the money the moment they cancel the transaction. We invest heavily behind maybe the quicker checkout solutions, whether it is in terms of we work with a very large bank to enable a biometric payment, wherein the customer can just use the thumb impression and complete the payment transaction. OTP less as an innovation has happened in India, and we're investing heavily behind it. So these are some of the things that we do for our core. Now, if I have to take it a little further and to your second question in terms of cross-border payments, see, being a travel company, it is not only about solving for payment problems of the customers when they transact on a platform. If we have to send a customer internationally on a business trip or on a holiday, it still comes with a lot of friction, or if I may say, with a lot of confusion, right? Except for maybe the privileged 1%, which is the tip of the iceberg. Others will be confused that if they're in a foreign nation, how will they actually make payment? And we are coming up with solutions wherein we would want every Indian, when they're traveling abroad, to behave the same way as if they're spending in India, right? So a card which works seamlessly without any nudge or without any difference from a country A to country B. So there are some of the stuff, RT, that we do. I can go on a monologue on this for maybe the next half an hour, but more than happy to stop here.
Sure, sure. Neha, would like to hear, Amazon point of view for sure.
So thanks, Aarti. So I think I'll take on from.
Okay. Is it me or we have lost?
No, I think
So I
we've
think
lost.
her, yes, she's
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe once she comes back, we'll continue, with her. Maybe Natasha, yes, maybe we can go back to, of course, these are all consumer payments, as we know, right? And merchant payments for sure. But, underbanked, we have been talking about India and government and the RBI. Everybody do talk about, the underbanked and, unbanked segment. And we have seen too many startups going that route. But, in terms of innovation, I keep talking to people and there are pretty much like, everybody do talk about financial inclusion and all, but in the end, everybody is, just targeting that one small segment, a very limited segment. So do you really see that it has reached a mass kind of, mass deployment, mass adoption, when it comes to underbanked and the kind of work that fintechs have been doing, in terms of catering to that segment?
Thanks, Aarti. I think great question. First off, thanks to IAMAI for including me on this panel. Very interesting topic. I'll start off saying, Aarti, that I do feel a lot more work could happen focused on the underbanked customer, on the informal sector customer. By our estimates, the market size here of the adult population that needs to do payments, needs formal financial services is close to 5 to 600 million people. So it's actually a much larger customer segment than what most fintechs are focused on. But I think it is definitely a very challenging segment as well. I can definitely attest to the fact that at KaleidoFin, we've had to really understand the customer needs and then innovate accordingly. So, for example, just to give some idea, right? I think obviously this customer is most used to transacting in cash. And so, the very, very first challenge is and we do believe in bringing them into the digital fold. Most companies that work in formal financial services want that, right? They want digital payments, whether it's lending, EMI payments, whether it's savings payments. And so our first set of innovations has also been, how do you make it come easy for this customer to not to move from that cash transaction to a digital transaction. And the numbers here are quite staggering. I think if you look at, I think there was a study done a few years ago by World Bank where I think 50% we've got great bank account penetration in India. But I would say, I think one of their findings, which I always find very stark, is about 50% of adults who have bank accounts had not deposited or withdrawn from their bank account in a year, in the previous 12 months. And so I think that starts giving an idea of, the account is there, but the accessibility is not there. It might be 4 to 5 kilometers from a customer's house. A lot of our innovations is around how do you make it really simple for customers to discover payment points? How do you make it really easy for them to have that, transition from cash to digital? How do you create assistance? Even if it's a recurring payment, and we've piggybacked on NAC in one of our payment products, how do you make that super simple to set up so that, you can really invest in making things much easier and seamless so the customer mostly works in cash but can actually transition with ease to digital payments? And I can go on and on, but there's been a lot of work on our end around discovery of, how do you make a payment easily? How do you access your bank account? also a lot of investments in how do you bring in that behavior to customers to pay regularly, especially in monthly kind of payment products. And there we've invested a lot via, computer vision, AI-based technologies to, simple forms that you have to set up. How do you make sure they're completely error-free? Customers have access. There's not, the friction is not there, so that from the beginning they, adopt it, they understand it. We also communicate a lot. We do a lot of customer engagement, use a lot of voice, use a lot of interactions to bring in that behavior, and we find great results there. After the first 3-4 months, you can see payment behavior start to really evolve and change, and people really take to that digital payment.
Sure. Thanks, Natasha. I think Neha is back. Neha, I think people would like to know about, Amazon thought process. I think, one of the key e-commerce players in the market, and, from cash on delivery, there have been, constant innovation by some of the big companies. But yes, I mean, do you see there is a stagnation in innovation? Because I really want to touch upon this, since Arun, talked about RBI Sandbox. I just finished my story, so I can think about that. Right. So first two theme has been cross-border and retail payments, right? And the kind of innovation that we are seeing there. Do you really think, being a big player in the market, that is one. And second, because in the kind of innovation that we are seeing from a very small players and early stage players, do you really see that, big players today have that flexibility to innovate at that pace and at that, urgency maybe? Or it's Amazon is just like a traditional, may have turned just like a traditional player in the market, good at its own pace maybe.
So thanks, Aarti, and I'm hoping that you guys are able to hear me now.
Yeah,
awesome. I think Aarti, like Amazon fundamentally is a technology company, and therefore I think innovation is like the core foundation of the DNA of Amazon. So I think specifically addressing your question, has regulatory environment or being large has kind of come in the way of innovation? I think essentially that's the question that you were kind of asking. I personally think, first of all, payments and digital payments is the bedrock of commerce. So you can't do commerce if you kind of don't innovate. So it's a bread and butter situation from our perspective. And I think the vision that we have at Amazon Pay is to kind of really enable trusted, convenient, and a rewarding payment experience for our customers and all segment of customers. So we can't think about a specific segment, because we are a mass brand in that sense. We serve all types of customers, whether it is a cash habituated customer, whether it is a digital savvy customer, or whether it is a customer who is in need of affordability solutions. We pretty much serve all sets of customers. So therefore, in terms of our strategy, I think we are trying to solve for access, we are trying to solve for trust and security, we are trying to solve for reliability, we are trying to solve for convenience, and we are trying to solve for affordability. In fact, at scale, Aarti, in all these dimensions. And I talk about some of the innovations, like our buy now, pay later, the way we are kind of acquiring customers, the way we are engaging customers. We've been one of the fastest growing buy now, pay later products in the country. Similarly, let's talk about voice-based payments on Alexa. I think we are innovating really at a very fast pace, wherein customers are able to really kind of pay their bills on Alexa using technology and voice recognition and all of those things. Of course, there are inventions and innovations. I think we need to kind of get it to scale by and we are kind of trying to do those experiments on mobile. Let's take our delivery network. We are like leveraging our very last mile, very large delivery network through which we service millions of customers in a month, in a year. We are also trying to say, how do we deliver financial services, loading into your wallet, like cash loading into your wallet, or for example, how do you leverage that field force to also do KYC? I think those are things that we are inventing at scale. So I think what I would say is that I think it's not a choice for us to not innovate. So as a company for which commerce is key and payments is very, very important to kind of enable commerce, we are kind of evaluating that. And then what we are doing for our client or anchor merchant as Amazon, we are also trying to take all of those solutions to our third party merchants and our partner merchants who are on Amazon Pay network, whether it is affordability solutions, whether it is our gift card solutions, whether it is our wallet solutions, how we are improving core payment services in terms of trust, reliability, all of that. I think we are kind of taking it forward. So I don't think that is kind of there. And I think I think this is one of the hot topic. That of course there are a lot of compliance or regulatory headwinds that I think all of us are dealing with, specifically as I think innovations are kind of really scaling. But I think, if I were to kind of evaluate some of the ones, say on interoperability or harmonization,
Not able to hear you, Neha.
Neha, not audible. Not audible.
If you could and then unmute again, please.
Maybe she come back again. Okay, maybe I'll pick. Yeah, Neha. Would you want to add? Hello?
She's on mute.
Okay. Neha, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys very clearly.
Okay,
I switched off my.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Neha is. Sure, I think I'll pick it up from here. Very interestingly, BNPL is one topic, that we have been hearing from everybody, every fintech in the in the country, I would say. And, interestingly, Neha used that term, while during a discussion on payments. So, of course, fintechs maybe look at it as a payments and, quicker payments, checkout payments, but it's ultimately a lending product, right?
Yeah.
That's what maybe I believe. But yeah, I mean, if you, I think it is valid for everybody. Maybe for cash free, because
True.
payment gateway are part of the underlying payments. For BNPL, Make My Trip, I'm sure that it is one of the I have seen a couple of BNPL option on Make My Trip site, and going by the unbanked segment, Natasha, I believe that that is one use case that companies would like to try for that masses as well, for where we talk about financial inclusion. So, but yes, I mean, when you talk about innovation and BNPL at the same platform, I would say, how do you see it? I mean, do you really see that as an innovation truly, or is it that the word has become so popular that companies are trying to just use it wherever it's possible?
So I'll take just 1 minute on this particular thing.
Sure.
See, innovation is something like, if there's a need, you try to fulfill that particular need, or you create a product for which you think that their need can be, there will be a need. Either a need is there, or you create something where in the market you create that need. Like this is something like BNPL is something like that is a push product. That is something which is always there. You just trying to figure it in a better way that you can promote it to the masses. So that's how it is being. So it's something like a lending product sort of thing. But I think a need is there. So companies wants to expand, and that's why this particular product. So you buy it now and pay it later, some sort of thing. So it was always there that you used to buy things on credit from money of your a local shop or something, and then you used to pay him after a month or sort of thing. This is getting digitalized. So that product was always there.
So,
yeah.
Arun, I have a question here to everybody. Maybe Sumit can take it from here. My question is, I'm not questioning the the whether the product works in the market or not, and whether there is a need. Question was, is there a scope for innovation on this product and on this use case? And if it is, then if please shed some light and what are companies doing, to innovate on BNPL side?
Sure. So, Aarti, I think BNPL is going to stay, right? And it is a product which may see the kind of growth which products like maybe UPI would have seen in the past, right? Different companies are innovating differently. Some of them are even innovating on BNPL offerings on UPI railroads.
Yeah.
Now, what BNPL has done is, for the very first time, it has seriously democratized small credit. If somebody is looking for a small amount of credit, either for convenience or for a short duration, right? Why should that person have to go to a bank or ask somebody else to lend that money? And can that be done at the time of checkout using the kind of big data and various other capabilities that everybody has today, right? So just to take an example, if you have a loyal customer transacting for the last 10 years, one of the highest spending customers falling short of, say, a few thousand rupees on the card, instead of not allowing him or her to go for a holiday, why not just give that credit and live with it, right? Sort of stuff. So I would definitely say that for Make My Trip and GoIbibo, we are seeing BNPL growing by leaps and bounds. We have a two-pronged strategy. We have invested behind our own BNPL solution, whether I call it as a BNPL or a credit or a travel loan, but we have a solution wherein digitally we provide loan to customers and we call it Trip Money. And at the same time, we work with maybe tens and twenties of BNPL partners who are there today, right? And we bring all of them in a seamless manner. We present it to the customer, and they have a choice to use whichever product they want. So I would say that this is one of the products which we are very, very gung-ho about here.
Sure. Neha was here. Neha, I think, Amazon is very aggressive on the BNPL side, right? And so my question was, based on the topics that you were sharing, things. So since you added BNPL into a payments category, and so what are the innovation that Amazon is looking at, to do? And is there a scope of innovation on BNPL side?
Yes, Aarti, I think the innovations that I think Amazon is kind of trying to do to get new to credit customers in the fold, I think that's the segment that we are kind of wanting to attract in the segment of customers who've kind of not received credit. So big data is a big play there. I think leveraging customers' data in terms of what we know about the customers to be able to underwrite them and to be able to kind of give them a pay later line, as we call as Amazon Pay Later product. That is something that we are doing very, very extensively. So I think we are working with our lending partners, with our bank partners, with whom we have kind of partnered on this innovation. So we can't do it all alone, but we've partnered with people who are underwriting and improving their ability to underwrite. I think that's one area of innovations. I think the second area of innovation is also leveraging. So one of the big thing about kind of growing this is to keep the default rates low, keep the bounce rates low, which is important for the product to kind of grow. So I think the other side of innovations is around soft collections. That's a very important capability to kind of build, and therefore using our own platform and the engagement with the platform to kind of really drive nudges to customers to ensure that the defaults and some of these things continue to remain low. I think the third aspect is about innovation on BNPL. There's also a payment product or a financial instrument is as good as its acceptance. So you could issue it, but if the product is not accepted well, the acceptance always is kind of undermined. So I think one of the big areas of innovation and improvement is improving ubiquitous acceptance for this product, both on Amazon and off Amazon in all the right context in that sense. I think, Aarti, and I think core experience of acquiring the customer, engaging the customer in the contextual sense. I think these are the four areas in which we are innovating very, very rapidly, Aarti, in that sense on BNPL as a product.
Sure. Natasha, yes. I mean, I think BNPL is one segment. Maybe companies who are targeting at underbanked segment. Maybe there is an actual need. People like here companies like the big e-commerce companies may be targeting, and the financial inclusion that few fintechs are trying to look at. What kind of use case and what kind of innovation do you see for the segment that you cater to?
I think it's actually massive. This is actually a huge area of focus for Kaleidofin because, as you said, right, I think the need to access credit is very large. People want to achieve their financial goals. They may want to expand a small business. They may want to expand their house. They may want to buy that new, additional, cattle if they're a farmer. There's so many use cases, right? So I think what is really interesting about BNPL is that it really fits in to the customer journey, right? It provides credit to the customer at the point of sale, which is digital. I think that same concept, should exist for the underbank's customer. I think it may need to be delivered in a different way, and that's what we're looking at is, how do you reach the customer at the right point? How do you plug in to the need of the customer at the point when they really need access to credit? And one very, very important place where we're innovating, so there's two parts to our innovation really, is one, how do we create the right credit product so that, today a lot of the customers we work with are microfinance customers and they get loans from MFIs, and that's really useful, right? But they tend to be a fixed loan amount. It tends to be a fixed loan tenure. Now, if a customer needs 60,000 rupees, but they have access to a fixed loan of 40,000, that's limiting. So I think our goal is one, to innovate on that end, to see how do you provide the customer the appropriate credit at the right rates and the right tenure. But one, very related aspect where we have to invest and we have to innovate is how do you also build the smarts to underwrite this customer, right? How do you really predict what will this customer be able to afford? Today, do you start with a BNPL kind of thing where it's a small ticket size and then you grow it, observing customer behavior and building that into, your predictions? We also look a lot at past data, their behavior on other types of credit products. And I think the SkyScore investment, this ability to model out this customer who otherwise does not have a credit score, is a big part of this kind of space for us. So it's, I think, both the credit product creation, and I liked what Neha said, right? I think so many ways in which you can get customers access to money at the right time. And I think that's really critical. We're trying to really see how that works, with the underbanked sector.
We have a question here. Maybe, it's regarding BNPL, so maybe you can take it now. What about BNPL in the B2B space? If somebody would like to take this. So I think the question is not really clear. Whether Soumya Deepa is talking about, isn't it like the credit cards that some of the companies are offering to merchants is something on the similar lines? I
would say that, Aarti, let me take this up. That's right. It's sort of a credit for the merchant, whether it is on the Open platform or using various other means such as the GSTN network and stuff like that. But there is enough which is happening in this space itself. I believe I was talking to Indify, Alok, founder of Indify, some time back, and then he was gung-ho about it, right, and wanting to invest behind B2B BNPL solution. I think BNPL has now become a term, and it is replacing credit, right? So it's basically about merchant credit and how to give them instantaneously using a lot of platforms and open APIs which are available.
Got it. So I think I would also take one point quickly, from what Neha was sharing about voice-based payments on Alexa, right? Payments, and there is this company who wants to do financial inclusion for half of Bharat, what the fintechs say, and there is this segment who wants to do Alexa-based payments. So, do you see a disconnect between these two worlds, or are fintechs maybe working to kind of bridge this gap through some kind of innovation? Or there is going to be some kind of disconnect between these two worlds when we talk about innovation and payments, and there will be always two kinds of payments happening in payments innovation happening in India.
Let me give my 2 cents on that, Aarti, and maybe Neha will know better in terms of what Amazon is trying to do. But I would say that maybe this might even be the bridge between the two, right? If we are able to enable a voice-based payment solution, whether it is basically recognizing the ultrasound wave which a sound creates, or any other such mechanism, it doesn't necessarily need to be on an Alexa. It can even happen on your mobile device, right? It has a speaker, and if there are a set of customers who are comfortable making that, it might just tend to be a bridge here if somebody can solve it properly.
Sure.
I couldn't agree with you more, Sumit. I think it's all about the innovation here is how do you detect what the customer is saying? How do you support vernacular? How do you authenticate, ensure that you've got, identity established before you make the payment? But I think it's interesting how much that overlap will be in the innovation that's needed for an Alexa, and as well as even on a feature phone, right? Not just on a smartphone. And I think it's all about how do we share that kind of innovative setup? How do we help, I think create that platform, so to speak, or shared investments across the industry.
Okay,
Yeah.
one more question here, quickly. I know that everybody talks about innovation and payments, right? And there are great ideas, going by so many new ideas that we look at from early stage startups, from big companies. But the scale that we talk about, are they really scalable? Is it really happening on the ground, or is it mostly, on the company's documents?
Oh, very interesting question. I think
I would
yes.
love Neha to, maybe Arun, you can please take that, and I would love Neha to take that up.
Okay, let Neha answer it first, and then I
No,
will
please,
add
Arun,
on
you
that.
go ahead, please go ahead. Please
No,
go ahead.
see.
Go ahead, Arun. I'll go after you.
No, I think, you look for challenges, and for that, you try to evaluate. See, in our journey because I've been a banker and I've been into fintech, uh, and I've seen taking more challenges, there can be chances that is not scalable. But I'm sure the major ones, what has happened in India, like look at UPI. So it is something which was created, and now look at we are the world leaders as far as the digital technology on the payments is concerned. So this is going global. So it is like, and there would have been multiple other products which might have been launched, like the blockchain we are talking about right now, and whatever the questions we are getting. So it's a something around 60-70 years old technology, and nobody actually worked on that particular thing at that particular time. So it is a time at what the technology was there, and when you are getting the use cases. Maybe now we have got more use cases on that particular thing, and that is getting implemented. So it is only the time, and it is only the right product which you are creating, and I'm sure there is a market, and I'm sure till the time we keep on getting these challenging situations into all the fintechs, or all the new age fintechs, or whoever is trying to co-create something new, there will be hits and misses, and till the time that is happening, innovations will keep on happening. So that's my 2 cents on this. Yeah, over to you, Neha.
No, I think I was about to say something similar, Arti. I think the next level of innovations may be small right now. So, for example, whether it is feature phone, whether it is vernacular, whether it is voice, because I think all of these three things are very critical now if we want to scale beyond the first 7,500 million customers that we've really brought in the fold of digital payments to kind of get to the next level. So I strongly believe, and specifically at Amazon also, we believe that I think solving for vernacular, solving for voice, solving for feature phone, I think is going to be very critical for the next phase. And I think like as an industry, I think we need to kind of think about it. In fact, actually, when I talked about Alexa is a technology. It is not only a device. We of course call the device Alexa, but the technology is Alexa. So I'm saying, I think what I meant was a lot of voice-based technologies are available, and I think various different companies are using it in also different various contexts. Like for example, Paytm is using their soundbox for confirming the payments and all that. And it's kind of scaled very, very rapidly, and merchants are adopting it in that sense. So I think it is happening. I think it's about that tipping point when as an industry you all start to work at it, and it'll kind of scale in that sense. So I do agree that it is seed stage right now. I think a lot of experiments are happening on this, but I think it's just a matter of time. I don't think so that is a question mark at in mind.
So we have seen in the industry, if something goes really big, and when you're saying that, maybe there will be a time, at some point, but we have seen in many cases, like in the case of wallets, like in the case of some other, use cases that we have seen, that the moment it goes big, there is danda from regulator, right? RBI comes into the picture. So, as a company or as fintechs who loves to innovate and call themselves innovators, how to keep pace with that? And do you really keep that maybe as a hedge that that at some point that is going to come? At some point RBI is going to call us out or something. So
Shall I take that?
yeah, please.
Very interesting, Ati, and I must speak on this, right? Maybe for, and even your previous one, right?
Yeah.
And let me take your previous one before I get into this entire regulator thing. See, if you look at it at a 30,000 feet level, I think metal objects as a mode of payment was invented probably 5,000-6,000 years ago, right? And that stayed, and that replaced the barter system which was there before that. And maybe the only major innovation which happened was the metal object got replaced with a paper currency, right? And that itself happened around 800,000, maybe 1,200 years ago. Cash is going to disappear. I think whether it is I think cash has outlived its utility. It might be a couple of centuries more, but it has to disappear. And if not now, when, right? When we have a mobile device, and every individual on earth can have a device and can use it for digital payment. Now it comes with its own set of challenges, and as you rightly said, that RBI or any other regulator will have to take that role of ensuring customer protection. Cash gives a lot of anonymity. Digital payment brings a lot of state surveillance, if I may say so, right? But those are the challenges which will get fixed over time. And just see CBDC, the central bank digital currency, which RBI wants to adopt and is already rolling it out, right? Wherein a portion, maybe a very small portion of money will only be a digital form, and there will be no paper money printed for that, right? So, in short, I would say that maybe, yes, there will be regulation, there will be hiccups, but we may have such innovation in digital payment kind of forums maybe for the next 100 years. Beyond that, this term itself will not exist.
I'll take 1 minute on this, though I don't agree on that cash is going to go off. Yes,
Spoken
not in
like
our
a true banker.
not in our lifetimes, because see, look at all the economies across the country. In US, the card was something, whatever we are doing on UPI right now, the card was something which they did it in 70s and 80s. So there was a revolution on that, but still cash is a major economy over there. It's running on cash. So moving cash completely out it seems to be difficult, but yes, it is going to go down in the days to come. And digital, the way we are doing. And one point which I actually wanted to, we are still, and this is something which I wanted from Natasha also, whatever the digitalization is happening, it is primarily, I think still it is at tier 1, tier 2 cities. It is still limited to that. It is still not going into the deeper into the segment which is micro MFIs, wherever they are lending. I'm sure, because still the challenge is how to get the collections done from those areas. That is still a big area, because that is still a cash dominated market. I'm sure cooperative banks in the remote areas, how they are working, they are still what we call not digital. They are still cash. So I'm sure that is going on. We will reach to that level, but it will still take time. I think we have solved the major part in tier 1, tier 2, and maybe tier 3 cities, but still there's a journey which has to be covered in the days to come.
Okay, so I have just 5 minutes maybe for the panel, and since there are no questions, there are some just information sharing happening on that chat. I'll quickly take this last question. So, regulator may come, after a long period of time, but, till that time, fintechs have to rely on partnership with banks. That's really important, the kind of business models that we have in India. So every time you are at a mercy, of banks and the way they see your innovation. So I'll keep Arun's maybe point of view for the last, but yeah, I would like to know from Neha, starting from or Natasha, that is there a difference between the definition of innovation for banks and for fintech? I mean, how do you see innovation and how do banks see innovation? Maybe yeah, Natasha can start, and then Neha, Sumit, and then Arun.
Yeah, I would say yes, you're right. I think much of what we do requires, close partnership with banks and the ability of, collaborating to create those products that, can reach that end customer. I would say I would say it's a mixed bag. I think I do feel like in our conversations with banks, there is definitely an openness to say that yes, tell us what the end customer needs. Let's design for them. Let's evolve for them. And it's a great acquisition option for banks. And I think I would say it's not been as. I think there are challenges definitely. I think I would be lying if that wasn't the case. It does take time. Both in terms of just meeting all the criteria, meeting all the regulation. But I would say what I definitely feel has changed in the last, 4 to 5 years is there's much more of an openness that there are many models needed to reach the end customer. And I think there is much more, support of, evolved products and an understanding that that's what the customer needs, that different customers may need different types of products.
Sure. Neha, first banks and then regulator being the perks and what do we call the dilemma of being like a major company in the ecosystem.
So Aarti, like while I think those, so I would definitely agree with Natasha. I think things are changing really fast and very rapidly. I think it has been an issue, but I think it is changing. I think both the regulator and the banks kind of understand the need to collaborate and cooperate and to consult to be able to kind of really grow the ecosystem, because I think like fintechs cannot grow without the support of the banks, whether it is with respect to scaling an innovation for a particular segment to really the larger base of segment, or really also kind of really helping enable those underlying products because they have the regulatory licenses to really help us innovate in that sense. So I think like the partnership is extremely critical and it is extremely important. And at least in our experience as Amazon, Aarti, we are working with like almost all the top banks. So whether it is about changing the core payment experience and making them understand why a payment success rate of 100% is important to give customers the trust that their money is not going to be blocked, or working on refund experiences to ensure that once they pay and if they cancel or return, how soon can the money get back to their bank accounts, to really innovating on our affordability products, whether it is a co-branded card, whether it is buy now, pay later. We are seeing a very partnership-oriented approach and very significant open-mindedness. In terms of like helping us innovate in that sense. So I personally do think that that chasm that you were calling out is breaking gradually. I think there are very advanced set of banks who are working together, and I think that is the need of the hour because like fintech can pay for that risk, can create a opportunity for a smaller segment, but once you get the power of a bank or a financial institution which is regulated, licensed, I think the power becomes just much more.
Sure. Sumit,
Sure.
Your experience, yeah.
Yeah. So, agree with Neha and Natasha, right? I just want to add that, see, this open banking standards, wherein a bank would allow third parties to access their system and data in a real-time basis, is again something which is happening globally, right? And there are countries like maybe United Kingdom, which has made it mandatory for the banks, right? If I may say so, right? In some sorts. I agree that yes, there is an openness. There is maybe with time it will converge. Many fintech may end up becoming banks in some of the other form. Many banks would want to do fintech in their own way, right? And then there will be a third third set of companies who will collaborate, and then together, when the banks will be willing to be faceless, right, and cede control for the customer experience, but still take care of the core banking system. It's a journey, Aarti. I think maybe from maybe what we would have seen at least 4 years versus what we see now, there's a paradigm change, is all I can say.
Yeah, quick, Arun, being a banker, I mean, how do you justify what banks do to the fintechs? Just 1 minute. Yeah, we have kind of.
Okay, let me just come directly onto this particular thing, because
Yeah.
I think banks now have realized that fintechs are poised to provide a better last mile connectivity on to the customers. So that is something which they have realized, and both fintech and the banks have to work in parallel together to make the things happen. So look at what the India's largest public sector bank and India's largest private sector bank making investments into fintechs now. That is the, if you look at that particular thing, that is a signal that the cooperation is going to multiply for the betterment of whatever we are doing at this particular moment. I think this journey, the collaborative journey, will definitely help the ecosystem, and that is what I can see is happening right now. I think, and what I agree with Sumit and Neha, Natasha, everybody, this partnership, if fintech cannot work without a banking support. But having said this, the regulator is working on PAPG guidelines, and I'm sure there are lines going to get open for the fintechs to have direct access for your payment solutions. I think there will be a lot of changes, but banks will be at the forefront. Banks will be with the fintechs to take our journey together further. So I think the partnership will blossom further, and I'm sure we'll be at equal footing in the days to come.
Sure. My just closing one remark would be on banks and fintech partnership is that we are seeing, of course, that there are a couple of interesting partnerships happening in the ecosystem, but we also see that banks want to try everything on their own now, and they think that we won't let fintechs replace us, but we'll better be the best. We'll innovate better than them. But yeah, on that note, would love to kind of close this session, and it was really nice talking to everybody. Thank you, Arun, Sumit, Natasha, Neha. It was really nice talking to all of you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
so
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was very engaging.
Thank you. Same
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, bye.
Thank you, everybody, for your wonderful session, for the discussions, for the solutions that you all gave. I think it was absolutely very helpful. Thank you very much. Please take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.